we fear death. We fear different things in life. Well, as a kid, I feared everything. Well, when I was 16 years old, my dad was the assistant pastor of a church here in the area, and we were on our way to church, and we were hit almost head on by another vehicle, and my father died 5 feet away from me. I wasn't wearing a seatbelt. I was in the back seat. I took a 90-mile-an-hour shot in the face. I went into my parents'. We were in a station wagon, which had a bench seat, and it was a steel. It was an older car, with a big steel frame in the seat. But I had to have dental work done. I had a cracked bone in one arm. I had soft tissue damage. I had a cracked bone in my leg, a soft tissue damage in my arm. I had lacerations everywhere. I was not expected to live. When I was a kid, growing up in Maine, I was rushed to the hospital one night for emergency surgery. They thought I had a strangulated cord in my abdomen. As my dad was taking me out the door, he looked back at my mom and he said, "Get on the prayer chain and call people and have them pray." Which my mom did, and the way the prayer chain worked at our church was when one person got a call, then that person would call X number of people, and that person, and so it just spread like wildfire. I went into emergency surgery, and when they opened me up, they couldn't find anything wrong with me. Shortly after my father died, my brother died. It was almost like when my father died, the floodgates just flew open. And it wasn't always family members, it was friends, it was, it was just, there was a period there where it was like just people close to me were just dropping, I actually had a friend who referred to me, who referred to me as the dark angel of death. When you get that moniker, it's when it becomes that obvious to people around you. And he was joking when he said it, but again, it's the power of the tongue. It's the power of when you speak something over somebody like that, So, there was a spirit of death that surrounded my family. My dad was an was a retired Army officer. Dad fought in World War II. He was actually wounded in the Battle of Airway. He had 3 older brothers. All of them were military, but all 4 of them were in during World War II. 2 of them were actually on Iwo Jima. And my mom had 2 brothers as well. One was a commander in the Navy, and the other one was actually a chopper pilot in Vietnam. My dad's father was, I don't know what he did. I know he had something to do with the Manhattan Project. I don't know what that was, though. I never knew. I don't know that any of us ever knew. I felt like several years ago, and like I said, I can't explain it, but I felt like several years ago that the Lord, there was a word that I felt like the Lord spoke over me, and that was warrior. He called me to be a warrior. I'm a musician. I've been a musician for all these years, and there's a lot of warfare when it comes to music. Worship is warfare. And God called me to be a warrior. In 2006, I went to a doctor, and I found out that in the accident 26 years before, that essentially my jaw had been broken in the wreck. Over 26 years, that bone disappeared literally. And what happened was all the tendons and the ligaments rejoined to the existing bone that was left and formed another joint in a different location. And according to my doctor, he said, "That's not possible." And he said, "I don't even know how to treat you because there's not a case study for this because there's not another recorded case of this in medical history." And what God showed me was, I love you so much that I am willing to suspend the laws of physics. I'm willing to suspend the laws of physiology. And I can't begin to tell you the peace that came over me at that point. And the fear that left. And the spirit of fear that was broken. And just over a year ago now, I had a heart attack. And I called my wife up and said, hey, I'm on my way to the hospital. She said, what's wrong? I said, well, I think I'm having a heart attack. I don't know. She said, and you're driving? I was like, well, yeah, So I drove myself to the hospital, and sure enough, I had a heart attack. But while I was on my way to the hospital, all that other stuff came back to mind. All the years of his protection. And I remember driving down the road and thinking, God, I refuse to believe that you've brought me as far as you've brought me to let it end here. I'm not done. And I just refuse to believe this is it for me. This is the end for me. I refuse. About a month later, I started working out, got it back in shape. Doctor calls me and he says, Mr. Harding, you need to get back to the hospital because you have acute appendicitis and it's possibly already ruptured. And again, I literally sat in my car and hung up the phone and almost started laughing. Because I was like, you know what? I'm still not done. I'm still not going anywhere. I'm going back to the hospital. They're going to fix this thing and I'm going back to life. And I think that's the point where I really, I went from being the little kid who was scared of everything to being the guy who realizes, my days are numbered by God. And He's in control of it.
How great the love of Jesus Christ. Upon the cross of Calvary, the blood was shed that pardons me. No longer bound